Alright, so just finishing up with the wiring. I know there's still some parts I need to clean up and everything, but for the most part, it's all done. There are some ground straps I still have to add. I'll go over those in a later video when I put them on. But let's give a recap of what I've been doing lately. Got the B&M shifter, all that's installed. The painless kit, part number 10403, that's knocked out. The Durale transmission cooler or hypercool remote cooler 13960, that's all out of the way. So pretty much the next thing to do to run is Terminator X Max. So there's probably still some sensors I need to get. I know I'm waiting on the map sensor, and then I think once the intake piping gets welded up, I'll have to add another sensor. Forget which one that is, the MAF, I believe. But yeah, so waiting on a couple of those to get my spark plug wires in. So hopefully they're short enough. I thought they were going to be a little bit shorter so they don't bolt or stick out as much, but there's a little bit of a bulge to them, so I can throw the driver's side header back on to test fit those, see how they go. But for the most part, I should be able to make them work. I'll probably get some heat shields for them, or the little sleeving. So yeah, but yeah, it's gonna come out and start pretty much routing the Terminator X system, get it all routed through the bulkhead or the firewall, get that routed. I believe the power cables are going to be long enough to get it to the trunk, because I think the power cables for it, you want to hook them up directly to the battery and not like a junction box. So I have to figure that out, try to figure out where I want to mount the actual the ECU up at. So it'll probably be up behind the dash somewhere. I've seen one person, and if I'd have done it before I painted the AC delete plate, they actually welded a mount to the back of this. So they just mounted the ECU to the back of the firewall from a mount, or from the AC delete plate on a mount, and it looks real good. But obviously it's painted. I don't want to go and weld on to the back of it and jeopardize the paint. So that's out of the question. But there's plenty of room up in between the dash and the firewall. Seeing how I'm not having AC or anything, I don't have to worry about any vents or anything. So there's plenty of room in there. I know some people put it in the glove box, so I'll try to figure out what makes the most sense and try to keep all the wires somewhat clean. Unlike with the Elco, they're all over the place. Like I said, they're probably down there in the floor still. Just need to clean them up. But for the most part, it is what it is. That's the project. I was learning on stuff on that. The Monty, I'm kind of doing it a couple steps above it, but eventually I will go back in and clean up the Elco. But for the most part, it's pretty much plug and play. If you haven't done one of the Terminator X systems yet, everything's labeled. So it's all labeled, it's all good. I did have my buddy, he put the new adapters on for the EV1 injectors. I believe before it was the Multec injectors, so he got those swapped out for me. But other than that, it's just pretty much going to get it all fished through the firewall, and then I'll start plugging up as much stuff as I can for now. Like I said, still waiting for the headers to come back. But as far as everything up here, well, no. I'm going to double check the fuel lines, make sure the fuel lines are all tight, make sure everything's tight, and then I'll start running the system. So what the plan is for, the plan is to try to have as many wires hidden as possible So what I'm gonna do, once they all come out of here, I'm not sure if I'm gonna flip the holes, put the bigger one on the outside, because I think the smaller one's for the transmission harness, so I might have that on the inside. But I'm gonna have the wires just come out of here and have most of them just tuck up under the intake, so that way you're not looking at a bunch of wires. Yeah, if you look inside of it too much, it might look a little cluttered, but from the outside it's gonna look pretty clean. So let me stop talking. I'm gonna check all the fittings, make sure everything's nice and tight. The intake's bolted down, torqued down to spec. I think everything else is bolted down. But yeah, start just plugging some stuff up. So in the morning, I'm gonna run up, probably grab some more cables. So I think I already took some measurements, so some rough measurements about the battery cable lengths and everything. So get some battery cable, start getting that stuff ran, pick up the junction box and the relay and everything, start getting everything wired up. And it's getting close, but yeah, let me put the camera down, start checking all the fittings, make sure everything's nice and tight, and then I'll probably throw it on the time lapse and start routing the Terminator X. Alright, so for the most part, I have everything routed. I thought this would bend a little bit more. Well, I guess it could. I just don't want to pull it out too much and have those wires come through. So there's a couple wires down there, so if they have to come through, so be it. But yeah, I'm expecting those to just bend a little bit more, but we'll make it work. All these will probably they'll get tucked up under the fuel rail over there and eventually plugged into where they need to go. I did plug in the ignition for the coil packs. I did plug those in, just keep it in place. Everything else is still unplugged. So I believe the map sensor, I go to the back. Yeah, I'm still waiting for that sensor, so I'll plug in back there. The crank sensor, like I said, there's a black sensor right down here. I think it determines which kit you order by like the tooth. So I think this is, I don't know, but you have to match up the crank sensor with the kit you order, so that's one thing you have to pay attention to. The other thing is the injectors, so you just have to match those two and that'll determine which kit you need to order. But yeah, all this will be plugged in eventually. You do have these little wires here for the grounds, so they will go to the cylinder heads. So I like to put them on the back, so I'll find a bolt and eventually attach them back there. So those will all be out of the way. But yeah, it's going to look like a little bit of a mess up in this area, but it'll be alright. And up on this side, I was trying to run these all the way to the front, to the opening up front, but with the ignition plug right here for the coils, it wasn't long enough, so I decided to bring it through this opening in the intake, and it should fit. I'll probably take it back off when I wrap this cable. Well, I'll put it in the wire loom. I'll take it back off, and I'll probably run this cable on top of it, so that way it's not stretching over. So yeah, I just hooked them up right now just to keep them in place. And all these wires they're all labeled, so IAC, throttle position sensor, fuel pressure sensor. So with this one, I'm gonna have to run it back towards the rear, and I guess on my way up tomorrow I'll hit my buddy up, see if he has another one of the extensions and the coolant temp sensor, so that should plug in right on this side right there. So with that fuel pressure sensor, well, I might pop the hood later on the Elko once I get the boxes out of the way, but buddy sells them, and it's just pretty much an extension. See how long I need it. But yeah, I'll have to go from up here. I'll probably either route it back up under the intake just to keep it clean, and then plug it in up here. So I'll need to find the length of that. I think on the Elkos, well, let me clear this off real fast so I can show you guys. Alright, so where's that? Yeah, so the fuel pressure sensor, or the wiring, that's as far as it goes. On this side, it's just a stock truck intake, and I'll put the sensor where this valve is. I'll put it where this valve is, and it wasn't long enough, so I just got this extension, and it plugs in nicely, so I might need a little bit longer one for when I do the Monty setup. So yeah, I'll get that extension, and then I think I had another extension for, nope, that one was good, for the fuel pressure, or the oil pressure, but everything else is good. I'll switch to the phone so I can climb up underneath, and I'll show you guys the transmission plugs and everything. So yeah, eventually I'll cut you guys off and get everything plugged up as much as I can, and then I'll give you guys an update on that. But yeah, it's rotted up underneath just to give it that clean look, so it's not looking like the Elko. I know, eventually I'll clean it up. But yeah, cut you guys off a little bit, climb up under the car, show you guys that, and then get everything plugged in. Alright, so the wires for the transmission are down here. Might get a little congested, but it'll be alright. Didn't paint all the angles, so I won't hide it. I think the plugs are pretty self-explanatory. Obviously the single one will come up front, and then the two that are pretty much together. There's two plugs back here. Not sure what I was going to pick up, but there's two plugs back there, so they'll just plug in, and while I'm down here, I might as well throw them on. But yeah, that's pretty much it down here. Still need to get some extra wire so I can start wiring up the transmission cooler. So that'll be coming soon. Once I get the relay box, I'll get all that wired up and all knocked out. That'll probably be another video. But yeah, I know that looks a little dirty, but it'll be alright. Yeah, make sure you get all those angles. Alright, so I was up under the car trying to plug all the plugs into the transmission and the turbine speed sensor. You see the old plug, our connector is broke off in there, so I'll try to get it out if I can't. I think they're about 26 bucks, so just order a new one. But I might have some of That's Cool drink in the background. Buddy Adam Doherty's podcast, so the announcer for Rocky Mountain Race Week. So he just interviews race weekers and gets some cool car stories and everything in there. So cut that on every Thursday, have it playing in the background. So Yeah, I'm trying to get this unstuck. If I get it out, I'll put it back in and get all that plugged in. If not, I have to grab one tomorrow. But yeah, let me mess with that and then get back to up here. Alright, so for the most part everything's on, except for the Sloppy Mechanics 1-wire alternator and flex fuel sensor. I went ahead and put the pass-through back on. Now remember, still have to do that, and then eventually just waiting on some wire loom. So once the wire loom comes in, I'll wrap this, and this will run through here also. Put this on mute. Like I said, if you guys are interested in anything race week, Rocky Mountain Race Week at all, tune into That's Cool Drink. But yeah, get the wire loom, then I'll fish that one through, and I think that'll go to I believe one of these wires. One of these ones, I think, is the activation wire. So I got dark in here, so just a few different wires. I'd have to grab the book to see exactly what they go to, but I know it plugs into one of those, and then I think the Sloppy Mechanics one plugs into one of these. So yeah, we'll figure out where to mount all that stuff here in a little bit. It's looking good. It's coming together, y'all. It's coming together. But yeah, let me fish this through. I'll probably try to do the same thing. Tuck it up underneath. I know it's looking like a little bit of a mess back here, but for the most part, I think the injector one's the only one above the return line. Everything else is tucked up underneath, away from both fuel lines. Has plenty of room, so it's not resting right up on the block. Like I said, I have to find the 2 bolts, whatever this size is, just 2 short bolts, so I could ground each side to the cylinder heads. I did put these ones back with the transmission one on the outside and the main one on the inside, just for my setup, the location. Like I said, those extra wires hanging down up underneath, with on the other side, had them right through the pass through, so I wanted to get them off there, so moved it back a little bit, and there's plenty of room so those wires aren't smashed on the pass through. But yeah, all that's wired up. I do have some heat wrap coming for this wire. I'll put some on this fuel line, and I think one on the other side, just so. This is the one I'm really concerned about, because the downpipe will go right in between these two, so that's why I got the heat wrap. If I have extra, I'll throw it on that side. But yeah, all the injector wires, all that's plugged in. This one, I'll probably get a 1-foot-long extension, so that way I could fish this through, and it'll just be right there. Yeah, it's out there a little bit, but I'm not gonna be able to notice it too much. Well, it's not gonna stand out as much, rather, versus like all the wires just everywhere else, like on the Elko. I like having 2 of the same platform, so you can compare everything, but it's getting there. Can't wait till I get back on this one. Watching all Warren G-Body's videos, what he's doing to his cars, man. The attention to detail he puts in is ridiculous. Like I said, I'm not a perfectionist, so on my cars, they don't have to be perfect, but as long as they look presentable, with the attention to detail he puts in his it's unmatched. I don't think I've seen another build he'll do something that looks good to me, and then he'll go back and redo it 3 or 4 times so it's perfect. So, man, I definitely want to get back to the Elko and do about version number 5 or 6 on it, but not up to his level, but you know, I get some ideas from them. But yeah, that'd be for another day. But this one, man, I wasn't planning on a tucked engine bay, but it's pretty close. Yeah, you see a little bit coming through the firewall, but as far as wires running all through the engine bay and everything, it's pretty clean. So let me stop talking and oh yeah, get this get this ran, get the pass through put back on, and find a spot for the ECU. Just have to figure out, I think this is for the main power, I think so. Could be wrong. Let's see what those are. Those are the old injector plugs. It does come with the O2 sensor, a weld-on bong, I believe. And I forget what this is for. But I know one of them. I'm not sure if it's these extra wires or not down there. I'm not sure if those are for the fans or not, but I'll go back through and read the book. It's been a couple years since I installed the one on here, so I need to refresh my memory a little bit. But yeah, let me get all this buttoned back up and cut you guys back on it then. To look up on the book and everything, but for the most part, everything's ran. Have the alternator all plugged up, the pass-through back on, flex drill sensor just plugged in. So the only thing left is, like I said, the map sensor. Should be here tomorrow. I think this intake has the cutout for it, or the hole, so probably be a little difficult to get to, but should plug in back there. So all this pretty much is buttoned up. Like I said, waiting for some wire loom to hook that back up, and then I'll probably just fish that through here. Should be enough room. It's gonna be close. Did come on the inside, and the power cable, just making sure it's going to be long enough, which it is, to come all the way back into the trunk. So that's going to be good. With this, I believe you want to hook this directly to the battery and not like some junction box or anything like I'll have up front. So it's going to be enough room, a little bit of play to route around there, be able to tuck it up in here. Only problem now I'm trying to decide is where I'm going to mount the actual ECU for it. So I'm thinking, I didn't want to, but I might drill some holes in the AC delete plate and might just have it mounted back there. So that's one idea. The other one, which would be a little tough to do because the cable, like I said, it is running to the trunk and everything, would be to mount it up up under here. But like I said, you don't need them to be visible. A lot of guys, like I said, even I do in the Elco, just have it pretty visible to see the lights and everything, which really haven't looked into it to know what the lights are, but they're all green, so green is good, right? But yeah, so should probably be up in this area. I do drill some holes in the AC delete plate, and I'll probably put some rib nuts on it. And then I was thinking about the other side, try to get something to cover it, but I don't know. I don't want it too congested up here, but we'll see. We'll see what happens, but for the most part, it probably will be mounted up behind the dash somewhere. It's talking to Elco Warren, the Warren G body. I think he's talking about mounted under the passenger seat, so that could be an option. The only thing with me is I don't have the center console, so if I did run it, these wires would either have to go under the carpet or I just have to have them exposed. So that's what I'm trying to, I think I might keep everything up under the dash. Also, because I'm not doing the AC or anything or vents or anything, so I could have all the excess wire ran up behind here. I don't know, it'd be close, but it wouldn't take much trimming to have it sitting in there. And then when I cover it, just leave a little slot cut out for it, but I don't know. Well, then the power cable wouldn't reach all that far, so I could always extend those wires back there if I wanted to, but I think just mocking it up somewhere in here, maybe the glove box, that'd be a good spot for it. Just if I need to look at it, I could always open the glove box. So that's probably what I'll lean more towards. But if I do mount it to the firewall or the AC delete plate, just have to figure out what I want to do on the other side of that to cover up the hole, so it's just not 4 random bolts running through it. But yeah, I don't know, make a plate, just have it sitting down there, but we'll see. Yeah, that might be it for tonight. Just getting the Holley Terminator system all wired up. Like I said, I think I mentioned making the bracket for the intercooler, so I'll cut that up tomorrow morning and probably do some welding. But I'm just kind of shocked how this came out. This one, that's going to be a little eyesore with everything else black and red under there. But eventually, once the header and everything comes back, get everything buttoned up. The O2 sensor, wiring for it. Probably try to tuck that out of the way a little bit. I think there's a spot up front for the O2 sensor on the downpipe, so that'll just be a simple plug and play. Like I said, I need to get the fuel pressure sensor, get that adapter, so I'll be able to plug that in and then go from there. But it's looking good. Well, let me see something while I have the header back on. So I know this one's going to be pretty tight. Ooh, that might be just enough to clear it once that's pushed on all the way. But yeah, definitely probably get the spark plug wire boots for it to keep that one from melting. This one probably be about the same amount of room once that's pushed on all the way. Yeah, so those two would be close. The front one and the back one, there'll be plenty of room for it, I think. Still need to get one bolt for it or screw for it. So yeah, this one will be fine, and the front one will be fine, but these middle two would definitely need the spark plug boots just to keep it from melting. So probably order a set of that or a set of those. I said these were a lot of them don't have the length in it, but this one had the length in it. So it's 8.5 inches from the inside. So if it's from the outside, it'd probably be fine, but it's from the inside, so I know it's not much of a difference, but it is. So with these turbo headers, you definitely need the boots for it. I think the design on the passenger side, as far as the openings, is pretty similar, so it should be pretty close. But yeah, definitely order the spark plug boots for it. So yeah, but come out tomorrow and I'll pick out where I left off as far as trying to decide on where to mount that. Get the intercooler brackets made up and possibly get the nose back on. But that'll all be after I run up to Loveland and grab some parts for the battery cables, the junction box, the relay, and that extension for the fuel pressure sensor. But that's it. Still have a little bit of That's Cool drink in the background, so I'm gonna finish up in the garage, get the bike back in, and call it a day.